Today's verse of the day, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. You might have everything figured out in your mind and your way of action and your way of thinking about the thing you want to pursue and achieve coming to fruition in the way you want it. And you might not get that result. It's not your fault that you're not getting the result. If you're showing up, if you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, and the result's just not coming through, it's not your fault. It's just simply not your time. It's not your time and God's timing, meaning God has an intended date on when you will see that success. When that date is anybody's guess. Your job is to stay consistent, keep showing up, stay disciplined on the journey to seeing that date. Because once that date arrives, that's when everything changes. But until that date arrives, you must stay the course. Otherwise, you will never see the result. So just keep that in mind on your journey, that even though you're not seeing the results that you want to see, it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's just simply not your time. With that being said, let's get to the charts. What's good, you guys? Welcome back to another week of market predictions and market recap. Here we have the Monday chart loaded on the QQQ chart, 5-minute time frame. Man, y'all, this week was rough for me personally. Due to Monday having such a rough start, we came into Monday with the right idea, but the wrong patience and execution. So let's talk about it. So going into this Monday session, we were failing our 714 level that we needed to get above in order to see higher. And so going into the session, we saw a failure coming in. As we were failing, we then formed the orb range between 712 and 707.26. From there, we were range bound between the orb and the EMAs. Using this EMA, I took a position, but initially I got stopped with a little bit of profit after seeing this go lower, with coming back up and wicking me out of my position, going a little bit higher, then coming back down before the 9 a.m. candle, going all the way back down and hitting essentially my target. But once it hit my target, I took a position trying to get the move for continuation lower, where we then saw a bounce going back up, hitting my stop loss. And then from here, I thought we were going to pivot, trying to take calls to go higher. We did not pivot and we failed, went back lower, stopped me out once more. And then from there, I was pretty much done for the day, and I missed my initial move and idea that I had for this session to go lower, all the way back down to about 700. So that was the Monday session. Very, very rough start. I think that if I was just a little more patient on my initial entry at 855 and using that candle high as a re-entry / stop loss, I would have been able to capture this move, giving me a better day in the start to the week. But due to that, we had a very rough emotional trading session going into Monday, and we ended up losing on our Monday session. So let's move on to Tuesday, talk about what trades we took on Tuesday. All right, you guys, here we have the Tuesday chart loaded on the SPY chart, ticker symbol SPY, 5-minute time frame. So going into the Tuesday session, we were seeing a range between 733 and 736.58. We broke above it, initially 736.5, where we then saw a failure kick in around 736.3, going back down to lows, reaching down to our previous week low at 731.74, where we then saw demand come in and a lot of buying pressure, where we were able to then hold this level going back up into the orb low and pretty much being range bound between that range. I was able to catch a position here off of this initial retest at 930. After seeing it hold initially, I just knew my stop loss would be at this level, and we just kept kind of going back and forth between this level. So you were able to capture this move multiple times, which I did catch a few times after seeing it fail to go lower. On the second time at 10 a.m., I then took another position and just kept using my stop loss as the EMA failure. If it failed to get below the EMA, then I knew okay. Or failed to get above the EMA, I knew that this would be a move to stop out of and look for re-entries if it went back down. And sure enough, that's what it kept doing until later in the day. It finally broke and went higher and higher and higher. But then we saw some selling come in back later in the day. But yes, we did break out and go back up, reaching all the way up to 737.6, where we then saw failure come back into the market and then filling back down, going back down to those ranges. And the reason why we were so range bound Monday and Tuesday was simply due to the fact that NVIDIA was reporting earnings this week, which is the #1 company in the world based off market cap. And a lot of hedge funds, a lot of market makers, market insiders are all waiting for that news to see whether or not we want to continue to buy into this strong market or sell and take some profits. And so that's what most people were waiting on. And then alongside that, we had a few data points and things like that coming out. I believe CPI released this week as well. So yeah, we had a lot of news that was important to the market, and that's what had us in this range Monday and Tuesday. But with that being said, let's move on to Wednesday, talk about what trades we took on Wednesday, and go from there. All right, you guys, so we have the Wednesday chart loaded back on QQQ, 5-minute time frame. Initially going into the day, we were holding a range between 704 and 707.4. From there, we saw a break above 707.4 going into the later part of the morning around 9:30. And at that point, I was looking for a bullish position, seeing that we were trending upward. I just simply took a position off this EMA, using the failure of the EMA hold as a stop loss. I was able to capture this move going higher, and I took re-entries around this level here, where I was then able to capture this big move up into 714, where I took the majority of my profits and then stopped out the rest after we came back down here and fell below the EMA a little bit. So all in all, a really, really good day on Wednesday. Wednesday was probably it was my best day, just simply due to the execution and showing up in the market, following the trend, sticking to what the market was showing me, and just simply honoring that. And it was a very, very clean move up into 714, where we saw failure come in, and then we were pretty much range bound for the remainder of that day, closing out the day at 713 to 712. So very, very good day, very good start to the morning, and it kind of held its trend all the way through the day. Didn't really fall back below that 710 level that we were seeing constantly last week, so that was pretty good to see. And yeah, let's talk about Thursday's trading session and how we did on Thursday. All right, ladies and gents, here we have the Thursday chart loaded back on QQQ. The QQQ session on Thursday was very, very slow, wide range, but very, very slow and very, very choppy. We were range bound between 712 and 706. As you guys see, we just reached 712 and had a very aggressive rejection going all the way down to 706. From there, we had a reversal going back up, breaking back above 706 after retesting it twice and going back into the 712 range, where we then started to see some strength kick in as we were holding the orb high. We started to break out. As we broke out later in the day, I started to look to take positions, and I initially took a position around the break above 714. I was looking for it to essentially break and hold above 714, which it did for a very short while. But we were actually able to capture this move here from 714. It was around 12:45, I believe. So we got in at 715 after it reclaimed above 714.5 in that wick candle. And I used this candle as a stop loss, essentially, and I was able to capture this very quick move to the upside, reaching out to 716.8, where we then start to see reversal come in. As we start to see reversal, I was looking for a retest and a reassessment to bounce higher, but I was too late to the party essentially because we had such an amazing move earlier in that 12 o'clock session. So I missed out on this move up and essentially got stopped out of my second position trying to capture the continuation move. And we failed to hold the EMAs, where we then start to see failure come in to the market. And by this time, I was essentially I wanted to see it go higher, but I actually was starting to notice that it was forming a lower low. So I just decided to stop trading after getting that re-entry and failing, that re-entry failing, and seeing the chop start to come in. I just said, you know what, just call it a day and walk away. And sure enough, that was the right move, because we then started to see this failure move come in and a very aggressive sell-off happen, and then a very aggressive buyout came back into the market, flipping off that 711 level, going back up and closing the day closer to 714. So we stayed patient, waited for the chop to finish, because this first half of the day was chop, and then by 12 o'clock we started to see a breakout. As we broke out, we started to push higher and higher. You could have taken a position here. I wasn't really paying attention to the market at this time, so I just waited for my low that I was watching, which was 714, to break and hold above that level. And then once we got that break and hold, that gave me confirmation to take my position, and I caught the move that I needed to catch going up, and the retest failed, which, you know, that's okay. We caught the initial idea that we wanted to see happen, and that's what matters. You want to stick to your plan. You want to stick to the things you say you're looking for. If you see it happen in the market that day, great, take it. If you don't see the thing you're looking for happen in the market that day, don't force the trade. You know, going into Monday, that's what I should have did, is not force trade, because I was only an hour, 30 minutes to an hour into the session, and had I just waited for better setups, I would have gotten better setups. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. That being said, let's move on to Friday and talk about what trades we took on Friday.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? I just want to say thank you all for watching. If you guys are new, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, turn on the notification bell. And if you guys want to learn more about how to day trade, I have a free day trading course on my website at www.continuebelief.com. There you'll get all the information and resources needed to help you guys learn more on your journey to day trading. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get back to it.
All right, ladies and gents, here we have the Friday chart loaded up on the QQQ. Very simple, straightforward day. We pushed above our previous day high, opening the day at around 718. From there, we retested the previous week high around that 721 range, and we rejected that range going into the day initially, where we then saw a failure going back lower, a little bit below the previous day high, but it was a fake out. We had an initial wick, then we came back down off the EMA, then we had another wick off the lows, coming back up into the orb low. And as we reclaimed the orb low, I looked to take a position, seeing that we were reversing back above that previous day high off this fake out move. I took a position on the close above this EMA, using the candle low here as a stop loss as confirmation. I was able to ride this move back into the pre-market high and take profits there. It did go higher, but I really just wanted to secure the bag and be done for the day. So that's what we did. And after that, I was looking for more positions as we were approaching the previous week high. I wanted to see if it would break, but it started to show failure and weakness as if it didn't want to break. And so I was looking for downside moves. And within me looking for downside moves, I was unable to capture it. We were getting caught in this chop zone here around the pre-market high, where we then were seeing failure to go lower. And as I started to notice we were failing to go lower, I just decided to take a call position here, using this low as a stop loss at 1135, because we were failing to go below that level. We were able to capture the move back up into the previous week high. Then we saw some failure kick in and another chop zone session. And then around 2 o'clock, we then finally got that reversal move that I was looking to see happen going into the end of the day. Closing out the day back around the previous day high, around 1711. That was our session on Friday. So all in all, really had a one and done day, but we wanted to see if we can capture more profits. And essentially we just stayed around the same amount of capital gained that we had initially in the first trade. because we had some losses from the chop zone, and then we took the win on this bounce here, and then I believe we tried to capture the move back down again, but it just chopped us out essentially. So really good session in the first half of the day, and then a lot of chop in the later half of the day, and then that final sell-off coming into the end of the day was pretty good. So yeah, that was a session on Friday. All in all, like I said, a very rough week for me just because of the start of the week. But lessons that I learned this week is to, take your time. Taking your time is the most essential thing you can do in the market, because the market's not going anywhere. I tend to forget that the market is open for 5 to 8 hours a day. And so having the tendency to want to take trades in a very small period of time can make you forget that, you gotta see the bigger picture. So taking my time, having self-control of my emotions, and not losing sight of the intended goal and the intended target. That being said, let's move on to SPY 4-hour chart. Talk about what trades we can expect to see happen going into next week. All right, ladies and gents, here we have SPY loaded up on the 4-hour time frame. As you guys see, we essentially just went back to our previous week high and rejected that level. So we started out the week down here around our 740 level, where we then saw failure initially in the week, going back down to that previous demand level of 732, holding that level, reversing back up, going back into our previous week high of 750, filling that level around 748.9, and going back down, closing out the week at 745.6. What are the levels to watch going into this next week of May? For me, the levels to watch are pretty clear around 744 and 750. Those are our current levels to watch. As long as we hold above 744, we can see a bounce off 744 going back up into 750. And if we get a break above 750 this time, we can now see a push higher, going to new all-time highs and pushing to where I think would be the cycle level around 752 to 752.50, honestly. I think that'll be the next cycle level that we reach. If we break above that, we can then push into higher highs once more. The cycle level from there would probably be around 755 to 756. But if we fail to hold above 744, we can see a push back down to about 744. 744 to around 738 would be the low of that zone. If we break below 738, we'll then see a push lower going to that 732 range, in my opinion. I think the 736 level isn't as strong as it was before, so we will push below that and then push down to around 732. If we fell below 732, we can then see a push down lower into this gap fill zone here, between 728 and 725. So those will be the levels to watch going into this next week of May. Comment below your thoughts. Let me know whether you think the market's going to go up this week or if you think it's going to go down. Me personally, I think it's setting up to go higher, but we did just get the new Fed chairman in, and typically when the market has a new Fed chair, they want to test his resolve and test his endurance in the economy and how the market fluctuates. And so they might do a rug pull on us this week. It might be this week that we see a rug pull. I wouldn't be too surprised by that. So just keep that in mind going into this week. Trade safe, use your risk management, and be smart. But yeah, those are my levels to watch going into this next week of May. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Market Recap and Market Predictions. It's your boy CB checking in with you all once again. Make sure to remember that it's not your fault. Keep showing up, stay consistent, stay diligent, do your research, keep doing your due diligence, keep doing all the things you're doing in your routine to sharpen your tools to be capable of being the best possible trader that you can be. I'll see you all tomorrow for Rich Off Gains. Make sure to tune into that at 6:30. Make sure you guys stay safe, stay blessed.